Hello and welcome. Today we've got Ashleigh James with us, and we are going to be discussing satanic ritual abuse victim. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and Ashleigh can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Ashleigh, thank you for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to?
Thank you, Nicholas. It's wonderful to be back on your show. I am in a very strange situation currently. On the 27th of December, I was kidnapped by the police from my bed and handcuffed, and I was taken to a mental health institution where I'm now being held hostage.
Why don't you give us a full presentation of why that happened, why you think that happened, and you know, what is satanic ritual abuse? I mean, explain this in a way where you're talking to someone and they have no idea. They are completely brainwashed by the mainstream media. They've got vaccinated. They have no idea what this is. Why don't you, and then give us that short presentation like that. I'm going to sit back and relax and listen to you, and I'm going to take notes down as you're talking.
Wonderful. So I believe that we're all actually victims of satanic ritual abuse and mind control. There are different layers, different programs. So I'll give a brief rundown. There's alpha, which I think is general programming. And then depending on your bloodline, who you are, your purpose in this life, is then how you're going to be targeted. So you've got beta programming, which is sex kissing programming, which is usually involves some sexual abuse as a child. There is, let me check my little notes, Delta, which is killer program, so assassin programming. Then Gamma, which is deception and misinformation programming. So that, for example, is if you start to figure out the truth, this alter would come through. So alters they're programmed through trauma, usually done in a child. That's when they like to do it because it's easier to program, but they can do it as an adult also. Then we have Omega programming, which is self-destruct, code green, and that is your suicide programming. So if you are finding out a lot of truth, or you're exposing a lot of truth, then you might trigger that program if you've been targeted for that program. Then there is Theta, which is psychic programming. And there are the ones that I'm aware of. There may be more. So I believe that the whole of humanity, unless you're living in a community in the sticks, we've been programmed, mind controlled, satanic ritual abuse. And you can see that in our public holidays. They are ritual abuse dates. Now, I found out that I was a survivor, victim survivor, about 7 years ago now. And when I first came across this information, as I was researching for what was happening to me, I experienced cognitive dissonance. So I shut myself off from it. I couldn't handle that information at that time. So it took until 2018, 2019 for me to really go deep into it. And it said on this document that I read, not to read it if you were a victim because it could trigger the suicide program. However, I'm curious and didn't let that deter me. But it was very, very challenging to read through. And I've been doing deep healing work over the last 7 or 8 years of my life. And most of that has been deprogramming the demonology that was layered into my tree of life system. So we have Aleister Crowley, who worked with the Nazis on this technology to, I say it's technology, I'm not quite sure how they do it, but they layer in demonology into the tree of life system through certain traumas. And it's been hard. It has really been hard. So fast forward to, because I've got so many stories to tell you, Nicholas, but we'll focus on the present, which started again on December the 13th, when I decided to go to Scotland after watching George Smith speak to Mark Atwood on his show. He was saying that many Freemasons and police were going to be arrested in Scotland coming up shortly. And my father purchased his book. So I had to flick through his book and I put it down. And I think it's called The Truth Is In Here. And he speaks about aliens and his connection with them, and also how he was being followed by certain Freemasons and certain organizations. And as soon as I put the book down, I was like, I have to go to Scotland. I booked to go to Scotland on the 13th of December. And that's when I started to experience psychic attack again, because since my last imprisonment, they've done this to me 6 times now. This is the 6th time that I've been imprisoned. And so since that last time, which was like March 2021, it's been really quiet psychically, about 95% clear, and it's been wonderful to really get that rest and that healing that I've been requiring. I get on the train to Scotland and it starts up again, which was very interesting because it was the first time of me stepping out to go back on mission again, because I was called to a place called Roslin Chapel, which was in the Da Vinci Code. Right at the end, it's got connections to the Holy Grail, the Knights of Templar, the supposed relics of Jesus, and it is a big Freemason place. So I was called there to clear energy, clear the energetic ley line of the rose line and all the other intersecting energy ley lines. And it was a beautiful experience. And I went into the woods after I finished singing in there, because it needed to clear the energy. And I went into the woods to find this sculpture in the rocks, which looks like an alien face. So I went and I placed some of my sacred creational blood, also known as menstrual blood, on the ground, on the earth, to clear the portal that was there. And then fast forward to December the 24th, I had a big Kundalini awakening. So my body was producing naturally occurring DMT, and my third eye was wide open, and I experienced a big crown activation. which was really beautiful. If you ever seen chromosomes, it was like loads of those around the top of my head. And then things got interesting.
Before we get into the interesting part, can you just explain what's DMT?
DMT, it's a compound, chemical, which usually people take it in powdered form. They can create it chemically, but this is something that's naturally produced in our bodies because we are alchemists, and all these chemicals and pharmaceutical drugs that they give us is to stop us accessing the truth and the power of who we are and the chemicals that we can naturally produce and secrete within our system. Okay. So that is one of them. What happens is the Kundalini energy, the life force, is a serpent, and it lies at the bottom of the spine. And when it activates, it actually clears through your energy centers, clears through trauma that's there, and it gathers at the base of the spine, just underneath the occipital node. And that is also called Heaven's Gate and Heaven's Pillars. And then goes into the brain, this energy, and activates the third eye and accumulates there, which then in turn opens the crown.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, I understand that I'm not going to use that word that you used with big, because they will censor us on YouTube. But definitely, those companies, those big companies, the $5 trillion companies, they want to put those things in our body to close down the pineal gland. They're fully aware of that. Yeah. And they put, radiation and frequencies in music to do the same job, to close down the pineal gland. They know that. The billionaires of this world, the controllers of this world, are fully aware of that. Now, I want to ask you a few questions before we go further, because I'm sensing that some people in the viewers are thinking, what is she talking about? So I want to just iron a few things out here, okay?
Of course, yeah.
Make it easier for them and for yourself as well. Now, why don't we speak a little bit about your abilities of your pineal gland? You've got a very high consciousness. You're very aware. Speak about the different realms, and also tell us a little bit about how you clear energy. Once the viewers have established that, then we can go into how you've been attacked here. Okay?
Yes. So it's quite challenging to talk about. So I'll do my best. Also, I don't feel like English is my first language. So
shall I ask you step by step, and we'll break it down slowly together?
Yeah.
Would that be easier for you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's talk about your psychic abilities. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how do you experience your psychic abilities, and how old were you when you knew you had these abilities, and how would you describe it to a person that's not psychic?
Okay, so firstly, I believe that we're all psychic. I believe that we all have gifts and that we're all really powerful, and this has been kept from us. I first started to experience psychic and paranormal phenomena when I was 27. So that's 7 years ago now. And I believe that I've always had gifts, but never really understood or knew anything about them until I started to research myself and experience them. So, how to explain? So one of my gifts, and I'm not sure how to explain this, but I can time travel. And that is a big one that they want to keep from us, our ability to time travel, because we can alter past and future events so that they don't happen in the present moment, or so that they do happen in the present moment.
When you time travel, it's not physically, is it? It's your spirit. It's conscious, isn't it?
Yes, it's multidimensional time traveling. So I'm here in this physical reality, but I am traveling astrally to these different time lines on different dimensions.
And I have watched tutorials on YouTube how to astral project. They're everywhere if you look for them. Okay, and also remote viewing, which the CIA does. And Navy SEAL Michael Jaco, who I've interviewed, Lewis Holmes, many others, they astral project, they remote view. It's a military technology. I just thought I'll put that out there. So once you're able to do that, there's another rabbit hole in there where you can do other things. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so you can alter timelines. So what I've been doing over the last 7 years is altering certain timelines so that humanity isn't faced with death and destruction on a global level, basically. I was very alone in this for a long time, but I've recently met other people who are also on mission doing this. That being said, I do believe that all of us on Earth right now are on mission, whether we know it or not.
Right. So we all have a part to play.
Yes.
So let's talk about how you clear energy with this. So you astral project, you say that, I mean, when you say past and present, I've heard a lot of military stuff as well, even when we're speaking about Project Looking Glass, when it's to do with timelines and this technology, which is another rabbit hole. And a whistleblower did come out with it from the military and he was shot. So it's a very big secret that's going on with timelines, universe, and consciousness, technology, dark and light. There's a lot more than what we don't see. Am I right to say that?
Absolutely, yes. Satellites are a big one. So with psychic attacks, they use satellites. Same with the mind control, the V2K, which is the voice to skull activation, voice of God. So how I clear energy, I set the intention, I clear my own vessel. I use a technique called the Star Portal, which I devised. And then I channel energy, quantum energy through my hands, or I channel light language. And the best way for me to do that is to sing.
Because it's a frequency.
Yes.
Especially when it's a certain melody of happiness or something like that. I don't know. You're educating me right now. I'm listening to you.
Yeah, and if you want, I can do a clearing now or later on. I'll leave it up to you.
Okay, so let's go into more questions because it's hot right now, and I'm very interested in what you've got to say. So you're doing clearing energy, and could you tell us what kind of clearing you're doing? Tell us some stories. What's happening on Earth? What do you need to clear? You told me that you had a vision before we went on air the other time we were on the phone, and you saw pedophiles everywhere. Tell us what you're doing on Earth, and that overlaps with the politics and the corruption.
Yes, it all interlinks. So what I saw before Christmas was how society is built on satanic ritual abuse and paedophilia. And it was disgusting to see. But because slowly over the years, I've been working my way up to this, it wasn't so much of a shock. And now I'm actually recalling after I went into the woods. So 26th of December, I asked my sister, bless her, to take me to Berry Hill Woods, because that's in Nottinghamshire, Mansfield, because I had a big intuition that it was connected to my trauma. So off I went, and it was really challenging to find. I don't know if you've seen the scouts make these like shelters from twigs and branches. Well, I had a memory come back a few years ago of where I was held underneath this structure made of branches and twigs, while two of my schoolmates, who were aged about 5, there's one boy, one girl, they were being tortured. And the girl was dressed as a boy and the boy was dressed as a girl. And I couldn't help them because I was forced on the floor amongst all the leaves with twigs all over me. So I believe that it was done at Berry Hill Park. And so it was quite shocking to find all these traps, I would call them, and how they make the scouts build them, and then what they're used for. I also found a torture device on. So there's all these really big, expensive houses, and they back onto this woods. And so you can see some of their gardens, unless they've got fences up. This one had a door going from the woods to their house. And I could see on their garden that there was this, it was a mixture between a bicycle and a rocking horse on a swing set. And I can just remember just being in so much shock looking at it, because to a normal onlooker, walking past, nothing. It's just a weird swing.
But where was this, Ashleigh? Sorry to interrupt.
That was at Berry Hill Park.
But was it? Did you say this was a vision that you got?
Oh, so my third eye open, I was just so shocked at what I was seeing, because it was disgusting. It was some kind of torture device.
So you got a vision of something that was happening in reality, or was it a vision that you was getting from another time?
No, it was this swing that was in this person's back garden, that what I was seeing with my third eye was a torture device, not just a normal swing.
So you were seeing what this device was used for, basically.
Not exactly what it was used for, but just the energy of it. It was like nothing I've ever seen before. It was disgusting.
It's funny you say that, because I once asked Michelle Fielding if she eats meat, because I needed to know what I was arranging one time we were supposed to go out. And she said, "Oh, I don't eat meat. I'm a pescatarian," she says. And I said to her, "Oh, how come you don't eat meat?" And she says, "Well, I like meat and I would eat it, but I've just stopped eating it because I just feel the fear of the animal that died at the time of death. And I just can't bear the fear. I can't bear the energy. So I don't eat the meat anymore," she says.
Yeah.
So is it like that, where you have objects or things and you can feel the energy from them and what they were used for?
Yes. It is like that. You can feel the frequency of something. So even though in my mind I might not be able to quite fully understand what it is, what it's used for, what it does, it's just this, oh my God, this is such a heavy, dark frequency.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. See, a lot of people, some people might have been watching this and hearing this, or similar stories to what you're saying, and they might think, wow, this is crazy stuff. I mean, what do you say to that?
It is crazy stuff, because we've been indoctrinated our whole lives. And so then to find out some of this information, if it was me 10 years ago, I'd be like, forget it. But having experienced this deeply for years, I can say that it's the truth.
So you've got the psychic abilities, you know how to channel, you see visions, you use your third eye, your pineal gland, and you clear energy, and you believe that you're working on the light side. Okay. Can you explain to us why you're in this situation, why you was arrested, why you was taken to this cell? And also, very importantly, please explain to us how you know that the police are aware of the abilities that you have as well.
Oh, I'm not quite sure. Maybe they've tapped my phone. I don't know. I think they're fully aware of who I am.
Why do you think that they're fully aware of who you are?
Because whenever I start to break out of certain layers of mind control or demonology, they're there.
Explain it to us.
So I'll explain this time. So what happened was I was being guided by special ops, a military force, along with the Galactic Alliance, which comprises of the Anunnaki, the Arcturians, and the Pleiadians. And I was being guided to go to certain places to clear energy and to dismantle certain energetics from, there's a truck company. Mm-hmm. And apparently what they have been doing is trafficking. And so I was led to them to dismantle their energetics. And I got told off by the security guards. They said that this is private land. And so I was like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going for a walk. And they're kind of laughing and joking with me. And so managed to get around it. And then it was multi-layered. There was so many different aspects going on at once. I was also seeing into remote viewing. So I was seeing into how certain trees were being spliced with plastic to create a new form of tree species. And it was disgusting, really disgusting. And it's connected to Kew Gardens in London.
Interesting.
Kew spelled Kew. I think that's how they spell Kew Gardens. So I went back to my father's, who I was living with, and my father and I had a big argument, and I believe that he was my handler at that point. So mind control victims, satanic ritual abuse victims, they have handlers. And I think it does come down a lot to it in our family members. And this can be the whole population as well, your viewers, if you think about something that you would not say in front of a certain family member or friend, or how your partner can actually end up controlling you, or you end up controlling your partner. Now, these kind of relationships is what they like, because that's then you not being your full self, and you're essentially either being a handler or being handled. So I was breaking out of a big mind control layer in regards to my father. We had a big argument. I decided at early hours of the morning that I wanted to move out. And then I shared some in-depth information over Facebook via a comment, not in the messages, so more public. And an hour later...
What was the information?
About the satanic ritual abuse, how I'd been created as an assassin for the Illuminati, and how I deprogrammed myself from the demonology.
How did you deprogram yourself from demonology before we get into what happened after you posted that on Facebook?
Okay, so I am a shamanic priestess, shall we say. And I've gone through many initiations to break through and to deactivate the demonology. And it's, not for the faint of heart. It's very disturbing. Been through many hell realms to get my soul back, because I didn't have my soul. It was fragmented. And I had to reclaim my soul.
So you put this on Facebook and as a public message, and then what happened after that?
And then an hour later, the police, I was in bed, half naked, half asleep, and the police came through the back door, came upstairs, and I had telepathic at that moment the messages that were coming through, because I was warned 30 minutes prior that something strange was going to happen to me and to remain calm. And I was like, okay, interesting. My life is strange, so what's going to happen now? And then, when the police came, it was be calm, just accept what's going on. And I was like, what are you doing here? And they said, we're here to help you. Bullshit. They asked me some questions, which I gave some very funny answers to. They all had their body cams on. There was 4 of them, 1 woman and 3 men. And they forced me to get dressed. They put handcuffs on me, and without reading me my rights, without telling me why they were there, without a doctor asking me any questions, which has happened before, which they need to do for it to be lawful and legal, they put me in a car, forced me to wear a mask as well, may I add, which I hated. And then took me to the Jasmine Suite on a 136, which I wasn't told at the time. And I was very calm when I got there. I knew that this was part of the mission, and this is what I had to do. To be able to infiltrate them from the inside, like I am now. And but it was still scary, I'm not going to lie. My right to volunteer was refused. The doctors asked me hardly any questions when they did their assessment. They did ask me if I was a conspiracy theorist, to which I answered conspiracy comes from the word conspirare, which is Latin for to breathe together. So I was like, yes, I want to breathe together with my brothers and sisters. Yeah. So they put me in an ambulance vehicle, secure vehicle, 365 secure, I think it's called, where they don't talk to you. And it's kind of like a big police van. And they took me here, where I am currently, which I'm not going to share because I'm still in here, but I can share when I'm out of here. And when I got in here, I lost my shit because there was a lot of black magic in here, and I knew I had a lot of work to do. It was disgusting what they'd done to this place.
Right. Okay, carry on.
So I was very chaotic, and I would say that I was actually presenting as mentally unwell at this point. I was being interviewed by the Galactic Alliance. I had to speak to certain members of staff because I was interviewing them. And it got to one point where they blue pilled me. So blue pill is lorazepam. And what that does is, for me, it took me outside of my body. I forgot who I was. I forgot what I was doing in here. And I became very depressed. So I quickly realized that I had to go about it another way, so that they wouldn't blue pill me again. But this is where it starts to get really interesting, because demonic entities were coming through the staff. And so, for example, I was sat there very calm watching the TV, and one of the nurses came up to me with a blue pill, and she says, "You have to take this to calm you down." And I said, "I am calm." And she left me. Then, because the police stole my phone, I didn't get my phone back until 8 days later, even though I told them to leave it in the room. Which is why I think that my phone is tapped, potentially, also because of the feedback that you're sometimes getting. So, yes, I asked to use the ward telephone so that I could ring people and let them know what was going on, to which I got the response of, only if you take a lorazepam. So they wouldn't let me use the phone.
So diazepam would close your pineal gland. Is that what you think that drug does?
Lorazepam. Yes, you could say that. It also, I would say that it distorts the frequency and causes the spirit to be out of the body rather than within the body.
So for them to give you lorazepam, is that right? Lorazepam.
Lorazepam. We call them Loraz. Lorazepam, yeah.
Okay, with an R, lorazepam. Is that it? Do you think because they were giving you that they were aware that you had more of a spiritual connection?
No. Most of the people that work in these organizations are genuine. They're just in a very poor system, an evil system, but they don't know. So most of them are genuine of heart, but these entities work through them.
So in this realm, would they just take orders from above, from their seniors, in order to give you these drugs to suppress your spirit level?
Yes.
Can you explain who those seniors are and why they know, maybe?
Okay, yes, wonderful. Dr. Ian Butters. I believe he is a Freemason. I don't know that for sure, but I believe he is fully aware of what is going on here and what his role is.
Let's talk more about that. Why do you think that? Let's talk about more his background and what his job is and what his intention and his agenda is, and then compare that to your agenda.
Yes. So I believe that he is here to suppress the truth and our power. So he is a psychiatric psychiatrist, that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, so he's a psychiatrist and he works mostly with people who have schizophrenia or psychosis. So schizophrenia is just a label for spiritually gifted men and women who either hear voices, spirits, they communicate with the spirit world, or it's a cover-up for the demonology.
So, there are, I understand that they like to cover up, the medical system doesn't, counteract or consider or take into consideration spirituality. So if you have a spiritual experience, it's like this person's not well or something, because they believe, this world is what they want us to believe in the Big Bang, that we're a mistake and there's no God, and there's no such thing like that. We're nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have, the drugs they give us to suppress us and to dumb us down even more, with the fluoride and, that they put in our waters as well. That's where I was going with it. So why is it that some people who have schizophrenia and other things like that, they seem mentally unstable, but then you have other people that seem actually very well okay, and they genuinely believe that they are having these experiences? How do you differ the two so that we can understand?
So you mean in between, like, people like mediums and channelers and then schizophrenics who are unstable?
Yes.
Is that what you mean? Okay. So I believe it comes down to grounding. So if a person isn't grounded and isn't stable mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, then the way that they will present is chaotic. They won't have any control over what's coming through them. And a lot of this, I think it comes down to, from my experience of watching other women in here, it's a lack of information. If they had the knowledge and information, there's nothing wrong with you. This is either a gift or it's something that's been done to you. And then, work it out with healing intentions, certain meditation techniques. There's so much that I could say here, but I think I could save that for another time.
Interesting. Okay. So what's your situation now, and what are you going to do with it? So they're trying to attack you because you believe that you're cleaning bad energy. So they're trying to attack you. So the people that work in where you are now are genuine. They're just following orders from a person like a doctor, for an example, that you mentioned his name was.
Ian Butters. Now,
Ian Butters.
Yeah, I think, I believe that him and maybe a couple of other of his doctor friends, Dr. Patty, they know. My consultant isn't aware she's being manipulated because she usually deals with suicide victims. But because of my history with Ian Butters and how he abused me the last time that I was in here, he gave, without a diagnosis, he gave me an injection. I can't remember what it's called. I've got it wrote down somewhere. It begins with a Z. And it attacked my life force energy. It attacked my Kundalini energy, and it numbed it. And so the most of last year I spent in my bedroom. I mean, it was recovering from an accumulative of 7 years of hell, but it was also this injection that I was forced to have. Because when I told him my truth of what was happening to me, because I had to as part of my mission, he laughed at me, told me I was delusional.
And this was the doctor?
Yeah.
So how do you know that he's aware of what you're experiencing?
I don't know if he's aware of what I'm experiencing, but I believe intuition, but then also on the 18th of January, I served the doctors with an affidavit of truth because I found proof that there was perjury and data breach on behalf of the hospital, and that this was a kidnap and a hostage situation involving both the police and the NHS. So an advocate helped me who's aware of common law, he helped me to write this affidavit of truth. So I served that to the doctors, and Butters was the only one that read it through, really kind of read it. That was the day that they put me on a Section 3. But they don't have any grounds. It's totally illegal me being here. But I've just had to work it a certain way so that I'm working with this consultant. I won't mention her name because, like I said, I do think she's being manipulated. So, yes, and after that point, he couldn't look me in the eye. It was very uncomfortable for him to be in the same room as me. He'd get flustered.
But why do you think that is?
Because he knows.
So he does know?
I think he does, yeah.
So
to what extent? I don't know what extent he knows. But I think there's something.
But he's trying to make out that you're crazy. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah.
But he hasn't got legal grounds.
No.
So do you find that the treatment that he's treated you with has a lot to do with suppressing you spiritually?
Yes.
Would you say that's an indication that he knows what you're doing, and maybe he's trying to illegally or illegitimately or unlawfully section you?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. What else? How do you know he's a Mason?
I don't. It's my intuition and my sense tells me that he could potentially be a Freemason.
So someone could say you're paranoid. I mean, what do you say to that?
I'd say that paranoia and paranormal activity are linked.
How do you define that?
Through experience. When someone says you're being paranoid, I'll give you an example. So how it's worked for me in the past when I was really psychically open and unstable, say if someone told a lie or someone was jealous, and they said something to me, what that would create, what I would see into, would be very dark energy, and it was like a demon would come straight through. So they'd use our lower emotions. All of our lower emotions can be used as a portal for these demonic entities to come through. So people who are more psychically aware or psychically open can pick up on that. And that is what paranoia is.
How about the times where people are paranoid, but really they're really far out? Because there are people like that.
They're picking up on distorted dark energy. So they may not be able to articulate fully what it is that they're experiencing. And it may come out as like lies or disinformation. But again, from watching the women in here, they are definitely picking up on some darker energy.
Right. So what's your plans from now to this moment onwards?
I am being discharged tomorrow, all going well, if I behave as a good little girl, which I have been doing, because these places are also, they're holding pens for satanic ritual abuse survivors. They're to stop. They're also conspiracy theorists. I've heard from the ward upstairs on the male ward. At the moment, we have a couple of conspiracy theorists, which again, that will be illegal. Well, it's all illegal. This whole operation with the NHS and the mental health industry is, for our divine sovereign birthright, it is illegal.
Right. Okay. Well, Ashleigh James, it's been an honor to speak with you. Thank you very, very much for sharing that with us. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish that you may think that we've missed?
There is something that I want to speak about, which is Yellowstone volcano. Okay. It's totally unrelated, but is also related. So I believe, and I have done for a few years now, channeled information in regards to a false flag event that the dark forces will put out there on the media or somehow to promote a lot of fear, anger and aggression and grief. So all their real heavy emotions. Now, what they want to do is they want to trigger tectonic plate shift so that there is a lot of destruction, natural events taking place, especially Yellowstone. So what I would like to say is that if there is an event that is televised or something really happens that really triggers fear and grief or anger within you, please try and detach from it, because we are very powerful, and if we don't involve our energy in this mass event, there will be less damage and less destruction.
So that's what you're saying, that's what their only weapon is entrapping us in fear, and we shouldn't buy into it. And that's your message.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Peace is our birthright. We have nothing to worry about.
Okay. Well, Ashleigh James, thank you very much for that. It's been great speaking with you, and we'll speak again very soon. Thank you, and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nicholas.